Good evening. It's me again, Denny Janae. I'm here for another video. Forgive the sort of like low sensual light that I have going on right now. It is because I am trying to do this video tonight. It's around 8 p.m. because I got like 3 hours of sleep and I don't want to worry about having to shoot this video in the morning. So I'm doing it now. Yeah, I wanted to talk about something that, forgive me, I'm looking over at my computer here. I wanted to talk about something today that is very, also I hope you can hear my neighbor who is playing his like weird ambient piano music right now. It happens almost every night. I don't know, it sort of sounds like a guided meditation track. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but it's loud. But yeah, I wanted to talk about Submittable today. And if you're a writer, you know what Submittable is. Well, maybe you do. But basically, if you're unfamiliar, Submittable is a submissions portal that many literary journals host their like calls for submissions through. So I think some of the popular ones that are on there are like the Paris Review, Poetry, Palette Poetry, I don't know, a ton of them are on there. Almost all of them are on there. But there are still some literary magazines and journals that will host through Google Forms, and you'll submit like a PDF or a docx file to their Google form and then fill it out, submit it that way. But for the most part, a lot of literary magazines and journals use Submittable. So I want to talk about Submittable because when I first started sending out poems, doing all that stuff, it was kind of daunting and scary, especially because I did not have quite the large body of work to submit from. So I had a few poems that I had been performing around, like I said in my first video, performing around town where I lived at the time. And I knew that they performed well because crowds would react well to them, but I wasn't sure if they were like on paper good poems, like poems that you could print in a magazine and have success that way. So sorry, my eye is like burning. I believe the first poems that I got accepted through Submittable, actually those weren't through Submittable. The first one that I got accepted through Submittable was Palette Poetry, and I submitted there on a whim. I was not expecting to get in. I didn't really like the poems that I submitted, but I was like, I just gotta try. Like I had the previous year some success with 3 poems I think that I got published in like a smaller magazine that was like queer focused. But yeah, Palette is like general submissions, so it's not like queer or Black or Indigenous focused submissions. They will have like special, what are they called? Special editions that are like more hyper focused, but in general, they accept submissions from everybody. So yeah, I got that poem, one of my poems that is like the most enduring poems that I have that people still message me about to this day. I got that published in 2018. It's called Fig. If you go to the link tree that's on my channel, you can find a link to that poem there. Or you can go to my website and find it there as well. My website is also linked to my link tree. Everything's in the link tree. So yeah, I got that poem accepted through Submittable. And that was sort of how I kicked off my Submittable journey. And I recently surpassed 100 rejections on there, which I will link their Instagram if I can find it, or their Substack in my video description. But a friend of mine, Bowie, kind of inspired me to do that, to strive for that 100 rejection number, because they had started a project called Ask a Failure, where they had also achieved that number of submission, what is it called? Rejections. And they sort of started a newsletter around that topic of failure and trying to get published and all these things like that. So I took inspiration from that and decided that I wanted to do something similar. So I got 100 something rejections recently. Still building. But yeah, I am talking about Submittable today because I find that it can be very kind of uncharted waters for a lot of young writers or writers just starting out, trying to get poems into journals. Submittable is like, there's such a wide variety of journals that you can submit to through there. And I think that sometimes people just kind of go in without any guidance. And I would like to provide some guidance to you. So first thing, before you get onto Submittable portal, just close your eyes and take a deep breath. Just do that and like relax a little bit. Sorry, I don't mean to whisper, but we gotta relax a little bit. Submissions can be very anxiety inducing, I would say, especially because you just don't know. You like wait, maybe if they have like an expedited option, you'll wait like a week, maybe a couple days, to like 3 to 6 months sometimes. And that waiting time can be very like pulling out your hair, wanting to withdraw, wanting to message the editors and say like, hey, what's taking so long? But just take that breath before you even start to submit. Just take that breath and allow yourself to find whatever you want to call it, zen, centeredness, whatever. Just before you go in, take a deep breath and calm your spirit, your nerves, and then open the portal. That's my number one tip. Step 1, take a deep breath. Now, step 2 is to scroll through the no fee options first. If you have not submitted to a journal at all, any journals at all, you will find that a lot of them have like usually if it's just submitting like individual poems or a packet of poems or a couple of like microfiction essay sort of things, or like essays that are fiction or nonfiction, those will have usually like a $3 to $5 submission fee. And then once you get to like submitting to contests and things like that, you can get up to $30, $35. That gets expensive very fast. So you want to go through the no fee options first and find journals that are not going to charge you. And those are usually journals that have enough overhead to cover cost of like printing and things like that, and like maintenance for their magazine or journal. And those usually are the ones that are a little bit more prestigious, usually. Not always, but usually. The smaller ones usually will have to take on some help through the submittable fees to support their operations. But if you want to go through the no fee ones first, I recommend that highly because, like I said, it adds up. You know, you think, oh, it's $3 here and there. What's it gonna hit me for? You know, and then like you submit to 10 different journals, $3 to $5 there. That's $50. You could be out $50 when you could spend that on putting gas in your car, buying groceries, maybe paying a bill or two, whatever. So you want to go through those no fee ones first before you venture into the ones that are going to cost you. And once you get to the ones that are going to cost you, this is going to be really important, but visit that journal's website before you submit. This is step 3, or advice number 3, whatever you want to call it. So visit that journal's website before you submit. And this is because you want to get an idea, a little taste of what they publish. So if you know that they have published a friend of yours, if you know that they have published a writer that you admire, you're gonna find that there. You can go and see like latest issue or past issues. So I go through and see like what kind of poems or whatever literary stuff they're publishing, and see if that aligns with what you are writing. This is sounds very obvious, but it can be very easy to go in and just see that like somebody's open for submissions and they're open, I'm going to submit without checking first. But you want to do that work, even though it seems kind of tedious, because you want to increase your chances of being accepted, right? You want to eventually get into a journal that you find is in line with your taste, what you can offer to them. So go through their website, see what they're publishing, and decide if you want to submit from there. And like guys, another tip is to pick a journal that just publishes writers that you know, writers that you admire, writers whose work resembles yours in some way. And that could be like voice and tone, that could be similar topics, but you want to make sure that what you're writing is something that they would want to publish. And some journals are very like niche, and they can get very like, this is the submission call, this is what we want to hear, this is like the theme or topic that we want the submission to be around, and others can be very broad. So you want to pay attention to those notes and things like that as well. So with that, make sure you read all the submission guidelines. It can be, like I said, really easy to just scroll through and see, you know, like, oh, they're open, they want the submission to be 3 to 5 poems or 1 essay, whatever. They want it in this type font, whatever, all those sort of things. And you can go submit to them and then later find out that they're like a journal that is for a demographic that you did not fall into, or you put it in the wrong font or like the wrong size, or made some sort of mistake in the submission process that could have been avoided if you had just taken that deep breath and read the submission guidelines. And in submission guidelines, you'll find things like I was saying about like themes and stuff like that. If it's not made apparent to you from looking at the website, they'll also will say like, we only accept submissions from writers that fall into these demographics. So if you're a disabled poet or a Black or queer or trans novelist, those sort of things will also be in submission guidelines as well. So you want to read those very carefully with a fine-tooth comb. Make sure that you're meeting all the guidelines and not looking over anything that could get your submission thrown out before they even like look at it or really get to like dive into it, you know. Okay, so one thing that I like to do, you don't have to do this, but I like to do it, is to read your submission out loud before you submit it. So go through your document, read it out loud, and I do this with even essays. I know it seems kind of like, do I really want to read a full 3 to 4 page essay out loud before I submit it? Do I really have to do that? Yes, you do. You do, because you want to make sure that there aren't any very glaring errors or omissions in what you're submitting before you submit it. And that could be, maybe you missed a word in a sentence. Maybe you misspelled something. Maybe you did some sort of like grammar mistake that people often run into. Sorry, the light is getting really low. Let me see if I can turn that little lamp on. That didn't really help. But yeah, make sure that you are reading it out loud to yourself, especially with poems, I find. Because that's when you're going to find things that like, oh, that line break is a little not so cute, or that word doesn't quite feel right, or I'm stumbling over this this sentence, this line, because the diction is off, or like the pace is off a little bit. You know, you want to find those things before you submit, so that when you do submit, you don't go back in and like, when you're kind of like antsy and like checking your submission, you don't go back in and see, oh, I made a mistake, or something that I don't like ended up in that submission or on the page and I wanted to get rid of it. And usually you can withdraw and resubmit sometimes. Some journals will allow that, but others will not. They will not allow edits, or like you can't message them and say, hey, I made an error on this line. Can you mark that or note that? They usually won't let you do that, but they will. Some journals, and I say some will let you withdraw your submission, which you can do through the Submittable portal, and just resubmit it. As long as there's not like a cap on submissions, which some journals will do. Like they'll say, we'll stop at 300 submissions. And usually by that point, the Submittable portal will say, this submission call is closed. So make sure you're reading it out loud before you submit. It just helps. It really helps to like hear yourself read something out loud and see if you like it, if it sounds good to you. Yeah, so the last point that I have here, this is for all my peeps that look like me. If you're Black, if you identify as like brown or person of color, indigenous, whatever, if you're queer or trans, if you fall into any marginalized, quote unquote marginalized identity, stuff like that, check the masthead. Now, I've only started recently doing this, but usually it's under masthead, or it will say on the journal's website, it'll say masthead, it will say staff, or like about us, who we are, stuff like that. Go there and see, scroll through all the editors, all the readers, and see if there are any readers, editors that look like you. If there aren't, I'm gonna say don't submit. Just don't submit. And can you get, like, say you're like me, a Black poet. Can you get a poem into a journal with all the readers being white? For sure, that's possible. But do you want to be in a journal that has an all-white staff, that is maybe gonna down the line say, we want you to make this change, this edit? Do you want that sort of environment to be where your piece of writing lives? For me, that's a no. Like, some journals that I submitted to either have like very diverse staff, or like a masthead, or they publish a lot of very diverse writers and poets. Diverse is such a buzzword and I hate using it, but it's really important for me to see that a journal or a magazine is putting in an effort to publish voices that are kind of left out of publishing very often. Like voices like mine, voices like my friends, or other people that I'm in community with. So yeah, I always say check the masthead. I did that recently. I just had a feeling. I was like, let me check and see what's the deal with this. And everybody was white. And I mean everybody. I'm not gonna call the journal. Maybe if you DM me, I'll tell you. But I'm not gonna call it out here. But everybody was white. And I was like, I'm not submitting here, because I don't trust that they will take care of my words, of my voice. And yeah, I've had white editors that have been great. Like, I'm working with a white editor right now on my book, and she's great. But for some person or like persons to craft an all-white staff or masthead says something to me that is like a major red flag. So yeah, check that masthead. Make sure that you see writers that are like you. Make sure that you're publishing writers that are like you as well. And yeah, have fun. I'm just kidding, but also kind of have fun. It can be really fun to like do submission calls that are more themed. So if you see a submission call that is like in a month or so, the deadline's in a month or so, and the theme is water, that's a very generic one, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you can use that to write a new poem and go through revisions with it and do all that stuff and then submit it. That's really fun. Or you can, you know, rework a poem that you already have and tailor it to the submission call. That's also really fun. I don't know, I just love writing. I just love the shit. It's like so ingrained in me to be passionate about this. So I wanted to share that with you. If I come up with any other ones, I'll put them in the comments. But for now, that's it. The light is getting very low. I don't want to be in the pitch black trying to talk to you. So I'm going to cut it here. Almost at 20 minutes. That's pretty long. So I'll cut it here. Thank you for watching. I feel like such a loser saying this, but like and subscribe. Bye.